What up, peeps? Welcome to day 9 of 31 days of Horrorween. Tonight I watched the newly released Hulu original film, Clive Barker's Books of Blood. A journey into uncharted and forbidden territory through three tales tangled in space and time. Starring Britt Robertson, Frida Fo-Shin, Nicholas Campbell, and Afriel, Rafi Gabron, and a bunch of other people. I'm reading stuff off of my IMDb. This was originally planned to be an anthology series, but producers later decided to instead roll a small handful of stories into one anthology movie. Books of Blood adapts Clive Barker's framing device story from his Book of Blood, but also includes brand new stories written for this film that Barker was involved in creating. Based on the Books of Blood, a series of horror fiction collections written by the British author Clive Barker in 1984 and 1985. There are 6 books total. This was a pretty good movie until the end. I didn't particularly like the end. It was a pretty cool wraparound anthology, sort of like Trick or Treat, where you got stuff going on throughout the movie and they intertwine. First story, it starts off with Britt Robertson character, and she has this condition where she hears every sounds are amplified. She can't stand hearing people eat or setting things down or anything that are amplified, and she has other issues like deep depression from some friend killing themselves or something, and she hears, I guess she was recently brought home from a mental hospital, and she overheard her parents talking about putting her back in there, so she goes to a safe, grabs her parents' money, and runs off. And she goes to this bed and breakfast that's ran by 2 crazy-ass old people who she finds out are harvesting people, I guess you would say, underneath the floorboards of their house. And they do weird shit, like they scoop their eyes out and sew their mouths shut and keep them there. And they eventually try to get her, and she escapes. They drug her, and she barely wobbles out of there and escapes. Hides in the back of a car, which is the car of some other guy that had been looking for her, who is the father of the friend she had that died. He wanted to ask her some questions. But they had killed him, put him in the car, drove it somewhere, and drove it off a cliff, which she was hiding in the back of. And then it goes on to the next story, which is a story similar to the first movie, Book of Blood. Is this guy shows up at this woman's house who had lost her son, 7-year-old son, to cancer, and says that he has heard from her son because he could speak to the dead. And it turns out he was lying because he had talked to her ex, which was the father of her son, I guess. They don't delve too much in that. But her ex had told him all about her story and the kid, and that's how he knew about it, about the boy, Miles. And she finds out, which brings the evil. This writing shows up on the wall of her kid's wall. Says, "Bring him to us," which she does. Brings him to that room, and the dead come after him and right all over his body. Makes him a book of blood. Then there's another story of this gangster dude looking for the book of blood because he heard about it, but he thinks it's an actual book. Shows up at her house with a gun and, "Where's the book?" She said, "What book?" He said, "The book of blood." She said, "Oh, that book." And she shows him the guy that's covered in writing, scratched into his body, and then you just assume that, yeah, they don't really show, but you know that they kill him. And then the wrap around is it goes back to the Britt Robertson character, and it turns out, they show a backstory that the boy who kills himself, who was suicidal, she actually told him to kill himself. Some silly shit about he was on a roof. She said she's on the roof of her house too. Let's do it. We're both. I didn't fucking understand that. Why that was in the movie. Why she did it made no sense. And she's all depressed. And me and my wife was hoping she would go back to the old people, the crazy old people, and kill them. But instead, she decided to go back to them and willingly let them peel her eyeballs out and sew her mouth shut and put her underneath the floorboards of their house, which made no fucking sense to me. But it was a decent, pretty good movie until the end. I didn't like the end. But I would recommend you check it out. It's a new movie. It's pretty cool, except for the end. Fuck the end. But yeah, that's what I watched. Peace.